Don't worry, I won't air any of you getting all pretty.
Primping.
All right, cool. Well, good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Congrats on this. I mean, I missed the days when we did stuff in person. I'm glad. We've done a few Zooms since all the fun times we used to have. If you remember being back at the Grove with Murray, that was such a blast. And
Oh yeah,
we did a few other things for your solo records. But you keep putting out such great music.
thank you so much.
It's such a this album is so great. Not that anyone would expect anything different, but to keep writing songs of this caliber and just so much fun and so much heart, and just you guys are still, if not as good as ever, really better than ever. That just must be a thrill for you to know you guys still have it together.
I think something about the old 97's longevity can be attributed to always being hungry. A lot of our friends had hits, especially in the 90's, and it was hard not to in the moment be jealous of them. But in retrospect, I'm really glad that we never broke through, on a bigger level, because then we would have to sort of live with the timestamp that comes with that, right? A lot of those bands are now on like a nostalgia tours, and we
Sure.
will never do that. Last year we did tour a 30th anniversary tour for our band, and we tried to sort of acknowledge all of the different eras of our band. But I've never lived in a nostalgia world. It's really nice to live in this moment and be excited about this record.
And you've had that kind of your whole career, from what, at least from on the outside looking in, there's always been a new record to be excited about with the band, and there's always been that forward momentum. And then you've always been able to, at shows, pepper in the songs people want to hear, or some of your personal favorites any given night. And you one of those great careers, you're able to do that because the quality of the work has sustained. So that's a cool thing for listeners, for me, for other people that love coming to your shows and digging the records.
Thanks. We just started the tour for the new record, and I make the set lists every night. So I was agonizing over what was going to go on the set list, and I make sure that there's a song from at least one song from every single album in our catalog, because you don't know, somebody's going to pay all that money for the ticket and the babysitter and get the night out and go see the show. And what if their favorite record is the one we don't play that night? So I really think about that a lot. I want to make sure that people feel like they're served at our shows, and like we think about them and care about them, because I know I do.
Yeah. How much harder does that get with so many records? Do the shows, have they got increasingly longer to be able to satisfy that need?
So yeah, there's a problem with the math, right? Where you need more time to service all of these albums, but all of the band members are getting older. I'm the youngest guy in the band. These guys are all even older than me, and so if we were to try and pull off like a Bruce Springsteen 3 hour set, I think it would be overly taxing on my bandmates. So
Sure.
we're usually clocking in about an hour 40. But I feel like, because our songs are tight and we do not talk a lot between songs, we're getting 25, 26 songs every night in there.
Yeah. No, that energy when you guys get going is so much fun and so palpable out in the crowd, and it's a blast. And I remember you actually talking about your set list and the formula, and then you have it down to a kind of a rock and roll science.
I've thought about creating an app wherein bands could put in their entire catalog and then, attribute some descriptors to each of the songs, and then put in the formula that they like, right? Maybe like three rockers open the show. You got a big rocker in the middle and a couple of
Right.
rockers at the end. Then you got to make sure that there's, each album gets touched upon, and but there's
Sure.
not too close together. Yeah, believe me, I've got an algorithm for this,
That's
but
very
it's only in
smart.
my brain.
Yeah, yeah. You could throw in whatever the drummer's mood or something too, and there's a way to add that in at the last minute. But yeah, very cool. Very
And
cool.
the drummer's got to figure that out. I'm not going to worry about his mood.
Not your problem. Talk about this record specifically, because it's so amazing. Just talk about going into this. What was your idea? I read somewhere that you try to be older, more mature, calmer, or something to that effect, but it's still a big, dirty rock and roll record. Where does that kind of dichotomy fit in? When does it turn into what it is now?
I keep expecting the old 97's to settle down. I keep wondering, when are we going to become the band that sits on stools when we play? And every time we go in, I've got too many songs. And out of my pile of songs, you could build a quiet record that sort of leans into the elder Americana statesman that theoretically we are. but we always end up making this record that sounds like we're still, 27 years old and just full of piss and vinegar. And the new record is just that.
It is, and but also with so much heart and so much, you bring, so much of your personal story to the first single and to a lot of your work, of course. But just talk about your willingness, your courage, actually, to touch upon, what you have on this record and where the road goes for one.
I think for a long time I was really nervous about the idea of autobiography, and it's a kind of a fallacy. There's really no song that's truly about me, But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more comfortable with writing songs where I really open up and let myself kind of go places that do feel like they're closer to autobiography than I've ever done. And I feel like there's a lot to there's a lot to be gained by sharing. There's a lot to be gained by talking about. For instance, in the first single off the old 97's album, there's a lot about, in Where the Road Goes, a lot about sort of survival, mental health. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and talk about that. When I was 14, I had a suicide attempt that was really serious. I was dealing with a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. And now that I've got teenage kids of my own, I see that this is a thing that just plays out generation after generation. And I'm really grateful that we live in a world where we're more likely to talk about that, where it's more acceptable to talk about that stuff. And I feel like if you put it in a song and you sing about it every night and you couple it with the joy of the community coming together to sing a song, I feel like that's the secret weapon. When you really take away the darkness from it and just make it something that's light.
For sure, well said. And me, like a lot of people, have been touched by suicide from close friends. And I too have kids. I have a daughter that's 20 and a son that's 17. And with their friends and my own concerns about them and everything everyone's gone through with the pandemic, there's a lot that everyone goes through, and everyone's been touched by this. So I have a song like that and someone like you that can sing about that and bring light to it and have something like make it a communal experience. I think is really special and really important. So, really, really good work.
Thanks. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and then the rest of the record, when you get to just rock a song like "Somebody," which is that was just released. I don't know what your set list was last night. I was looking it up, but that seems like that would be a blast to play live. I'm sure at some point you do or will. But just seems like you also have some songs that are just made for a live show and to have fun.
It's funny because when you put out a record, you don't really know what are the songs that are going to click, what are the songs that are going to sound good live. And this album, and it kind of covers a lot of ground, but a song like Somebody fits really perfectly right at the beginning of a set. We played it on the first show of the tour, we played it third, which is a little bit rare for a new song. And people responded. It sounded great. It felt great. We played the song Where the Road Goes, which is sort of more of an epic ballad kind of song, late in the set. And again, it felt like a real release. Really felt like a beautiful moment in the set. So far so good. There's a song, the opening track on the album is called Falling Down Around You, and it is a banger. And
Yeah.
that song already feels like something we could close a set with. And to have a new song that you could play like in the last slot on a set, which is a very important, valuable slot in your set list, that's a good sign.
So you're bumping out some old favorites then to do that. That's something
That's the
fresh and new.
problem, right? The new kid, there's always a new kid coming along kicking you out.
There we go. We've heard that. Yes. Nice, nice. And talk about the production on this and some of the guests, because you're working with some of the most talented, nicest people in rock with Scott McCaughey and Peter Buck and others. Just how much fun was that for you guys to do this in Portland with them?
So part of the old 97's thing is that we're a democracy. So everybody in the band gets to weigh in on all the stuff. So we all have our different tastes. We have our different record collections. But there's one band, well, there's maybe two or three bands, but one of the small handful of bands that makes up our Venn diagram overlap in our band is REM. So when we got to open for REM on one of their final US shows before they broke up, in Dallas, it was like a real career highlight. And getting to be friends with some of the guys in that band um, has been a joy. Has been like if I could go back in time and tell 14-year-old me that I was going to get to be friends with the guys from REM, that I would get to collaborate with Peter Buck on our album, it would be, I wouldn't believe it for a second. But Peter was great. I reached out to him when I thought we were going to record with Tucker Martine, the producers in Portland, where Peter lives. And I said, "You must know Tucker. How is he? How's the studio?" Just to see what Peter thought. And he goes, "He's the best. The studio's the best. And if you record there, you have to let me come play guitar on your album." And he brought Scott McCoy along, and Scott played piano on a song, and Peter played guitar on two different songs. And Peter Buck actually played mandolin on a song, which was not in the schedule.
Right.
And when he showed up, I said, "I have this idea for a song where I think you'd be good on mandolin." And Peter said, in his typical self deprecating fashion, "Oh man, I haven't played mandolin in forever. I probably can't do it." And so I said, "Fine." And it was the same song that Scott was going to play piano on. So I got a mandolin, tuned it up, set it next to Peter on the couch. And while Scott was playing the song piano, Peter was just sitting there listening to the song with a mandolin next to him. And sure enough, he picked up the mandolin and he started playing along. And by the end of Scott recording the piano part, Peter announced that he had a mandolin part, and my trick had worked.
So perfect. So great. So great. And you talk about the democracy of the band and all that, but just talk about the brotherhood you guys share. And you can put out great records, but it can fizzle. You can be doing your own thing, and you have. And you guys live in different places, from what I've understood over the years, and you meet up to do the music and stuff like that. But to have that balance where you know how to bring it back, you know how to still make great music. And I don't think, if you guys weren't friends, you wouldn't still be doing this. So what is it about that shared brotherhood that's gotten you through all these years?
30 years as a band is unlikely. Like it doesn't happen very much. I've been challenging rock critics and journalists while I'm doing all of this talking about the new record, to come up with another band that's been in the same four members and nonstop working for 30 years. The closest I've gotten was somebody said U2, somebody said Fish. Those are the only two I've heard, and I can't even confirm. It seems unlikely that Fish is all the same people, but whatever.
Right.
Regardless, I'm really proud of how long we've been together, and I think it's just that we respect each other, we love each other, and we've learned how to sort of swallow our ego a little bit, because there's a lot of times when that part of you that likes to fight, that likes to be right, that likes to win, your ego will jump up and want to fight about something with one of your bandmates. And to me, in the early years, I let that take over. I let the monster take over. But when it looked like maybe the band wasn't going to survive a few times, I realized it was more valuable to me to have my bandmates and have my band than it was to win, to be right, to always get to have the last word. And so over the years, I think all four of us have figured out that it's better to let our brothers in the band sort of be equal partners. And it's really it's an incredible gift, and I cannot even believe that we've been able to pull this off.
So amazing. To all of our rock and roll pleasure over the years. Thankfully, that's so that's great. And you've had your solo outlets and other creative endeavors to keep maybe that thing going for you, where you'd be able to have, to do your own thing, to have to, between writing and your great solo records and a million other projects I'm probably forgetting or don't even know about. But you've done so many things over the years that I know have been satisfying for you in different ways.
The old 97's around 2000 decided that they were okay with me making solo records in addition to the band, because I bring in too many songs, and it was driving me crazy that they would reject all these songs that I felt like were really good songs. And it does make sense, because the old 97's is a very specific thing, and some of these songs get really weird. And so the fact that they let me make solo records and get weird makes it a lot easier to stay in the band and not begrudge them their orneriness. And here we are 30 years later. It seems like it's been a good recipe.
It's been a good recipe, and this album is so great, Rhett. And I'm not the only one, I'm sure, that tells you all the time that some of my favorite musical memories over the years have involved you and the band and your times at Largo, or other just great experiences. Have just been so wonderful. So, thanks for all the music and for an incredible new record.
Thank you so much. And thanks for helping amplify. There's so much noise. I'm grateful you're helping us get it out there.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Congrats on this, and my pleasure to do that. And we'll see you on the road.
All right. Good luck with those two kids. I got the same ages, remember, and it's a lot.
I know. Now I'm dealing with college stuff and all that.
Double college.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, one's
Has your
been up in San Luis Obispo. She just spent some time in Italy, which was amazing. We're broke now,
nice.
but she had a blast. And then but she's still up at school at San Luis Obispo. And then my son now just got accepted to, a lot of great schools, and we got to figure out what's going to go on with him. Yeah.
Same with my daughter. Do you know where he might go?
Well, he's an actor. He wants to do theater, and he's like serious
Nice.
kind of actor stuff. And he was lucky enough to get into USC and NYU Tisch, but we have to figure out how to if we're going to be able to pay for that for one thing. And then,
Same.
but he got into some other great UC schools and some, we'll see. You know, he's an interesting guy. I
Yeah.
want him to make the decision, but we gotta figure it out. How about you?
Uh, Yeah, same. So they got into a lot of schools, but it looks like she's going to go to Parsons, which is part of the new school,
Nice.
for
Yeah.
fashion design, which is crazy. So if he winds up at in NYU Tisch, they'll be neighbors. They're like in the
Yeah.
same
Right.
block.
Very cool. Yeah, we have a couple friends. I think Olivia, my daughter's age, so that ended up at the new school. Yeah, doing like theater and things like that. So yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. I'm actually, I I've got an interview with them in a few weeks because I'm hoping to maybe do some adjunct professorship teaching songwriting, see if I can get my daughter's tuition cut.
Yeah, there you go. You got to figure it out. Well,
I
very
don't know,
cool.
man. Whatever it takes. Thanks so
Whatever it takes.
much.
Well, good luck with all that, and good luck on the road.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
the best,
See
Rhett.
you.
Good talking to you.
Bye. You too.
Bye bye.